Just calling the name, the deity can descend to the world. But facing the well-known Erlang Shen, the man trembled and called out to the earth god. As a result, what awaited, the man was being turned to dust, only because the deities of various countries have awakened. But the continuity of Chinese civilization has been broken. Facing the deities that once ruled this land, the younger generation finds it hard to know their names. On the deities' arena, they have fought and lost repeatedly. Now only one final battle remains before the disappearance of China. And now is the once-in-a-decade day of divine awakening. As the ceremony begins, the top scorer of the national exam, Liu Yanren, steps forward towards the divine artifact. As his finger lightly touches it, an anomaly suddenly appears on sight. Seeing this, the city lord gasps in surprise. This must be a high-ranking deity appearing. China is saved. Seeing this, Liu Yanren immediately puts his hands together. All the defeated armies of various countries surrender. The name of the god of killing is passed down through the ages. The Battle of Red Cliffs stained the river with blood. Iron-blooded loyalty shines for the Zhao Han. The younger generation, Liu Yanren, humbly invites the god of killing Bai Qi to descend. But when these words fell into Liu Changsheng's ears, his heart was stunned. A god of killing from the Qin dynasty. A battle from the late Eastern Han dynasty. The two are separated by hundreds of years. They are completely unrelated. Upon hearing this, Zhou Hao hurriedly grabbed his sleeve. You must know that he is the national champion of the same race. Before Changsheng could speak, the people around all looked in his direction. Listening to the insults from these people, he felt an endless desire in his heart. It turns out Changsheng comes from another parallel world. As a former archaeology student in his past life, he accidentally crossed over to this world. Thus, the scene that just happened occurred. But Liu Yanren on the stage did not notice what was happening here. He just quietly watched the phantom of Bai Qi. After pondering for a moment, he once again turned his gaze to another phantom. Seeing this, the city lord was suddenly taken aback. Could it be that he wants to activate another unknown deity? But looking at the emperor on the stage, Liu Yanren was also uncertain in her heart. After all, this is a deity of the emperor. The human body is weak, which makes it extremely rare. But just when everyone thought it was only the frequent occurrence of Tang Taizong Li Shimen, he fell into deep thought again. According to the knowledge he had accumulated, the emperor's attire of the Sui and Tang dynasties was mainly bright yellow. Moreover, no dynasty in history could possibly be black. Thinking of this, his heart also stirred up waves of shock. Could it be that he is not? But just as he was pondering, the principal on the stage stopped Liu Yanren's actions with a stern voice. Wait, the emperor deity appears for the first time in a century. On the mythological arena, according to historical records, in the thousands of years of Huaxia, the number of emperors born is countless. Rashly choosing to listen to the words, the city lord beside also spoke to advise, listening to the words in his ears. For a moment, the scene fell into a dead silence. After a long time, Liu Yanren slowly spoke up. But if I leave, this top deity will disappear from this world. Then, we also cannot use the future top combat power as a bet. Notify the Heavenly Book Academy. Consume 10 years of national fortune. To fix the emperor's soul. See if there are any children coming for divine enlightenment, who can recognize it. As the golden crow soared into the sky, the emperor's soul here was also pinned in place. Seeing this, the principal slowly looked at the students below. A top deity has appeared in Huaxia. It is Tang Taizong Li Shimen. Everyone also knows how important a top deity is for present-day Huaxia. The battle of deities. Huaxia has already lost 2 matches. If we lose again, we will have to cede land and pay compensation. If no top deity appears, relying solely on the sword, immortal is a slim hope. I know the Huaxia civilization has a gap. Based on the current information, The identity of the deity is particularly dangerous. It may lead to death. Who dares to step forward today to give it a try? Upon hearing this, many students below fell into discussion. But the children in Huaxia are not cowards. Many students at this moment volunteered to step out of the crowd. As one person raised their hand, another followed closely, even if it means 9 deaths and no life. At this moment, a voice broke through the noisy scene. I know the origin of this deity. It is likely different from the principal's judgment. Junior Liu Changsheng from Jinling Academy is willing to give it a try. After saying this, Changsheng disregarded his friend's pull and walked out of the crowd. Watching this scene, the principal fell into deep thought. Could it be that he really understands the life of this emperor? But after weighing the pros and cons, he agreed to Liu Changsheng's request to awaken the spirit. After all, no one can stop the pure heart of a Huaxia person. And at the same time, in the audience, the Sakura country watched as Huaxia faced an unknown deity, unhesitatingly rushing to appear. Many citizens of Sakura country showed disdainful expressions, glaring at the mockery from the side. Changsheng, however, closed his eyes tightly and began to adjust his mindset. As he placed his hand on the divine awakening, a presence more terrifying than Liu Yanren ascended at this moment. Seeing this, not only was Sakura country dumbfounded, but the other countries also showed surprised expressions. Unexpectedly, Changsheng actually summoned its level divine fortune, and the current fortune level is white, green, blue. However, it is known that above orange is red fortune. Currently, the only deity in the world with red fortune is located in the Vatican. Some call it God. But at this moment, Changsheng on the stage was just quietly watching that phantom. Because he knew well, this deity cannot be ranked as SSS level. It can only be said that SSS level is the upper limit of rank, not his upper limit. Even if they are both SSS level deities, it is likely that few can compare with him. Watching that phantom gradually solidify, the principal's body could not help but start trembling. Holding a giant axe, towering and standing tall, with bulging muscles, a rugged face, and immense strength. Could it be the Xingqian from ancient mythology? Hearing this, Changsheng frowned again. It seems that the Huaxia mythology of this world has been gone for too long. Perhaps this is the meaning of my coming here. Then he took another step forward. Taizu Pangu created the universe, with great power splitting the chaos. Though the wonderful fruit is round, it has no center. The mortal body has retreated. Only the trace remains of the younger generation, Changsheng. I respectfully invite the creator god Pangu. As his words fell, the audience on the stage gasped again. Truly, one cannot judge a person by their appearance. I really didn't expect he could awaken an SSS level deity. On this side, Pangu. After awakening, Changsheng's body was also enveloped in a red light. At the same time, a cold, mechanical voice sounded beside him. Character, Changsheng. Energy level, 1%. Fated deity, Pangu. Meanwhile, in the pantheon, a body stronger than the other figures quietly appeared in the temple. Seeing this, the sweeping boy was first stunned, then hurriedly dropped the broom, running to the mountain top. After laboriously picking up the fate hammer, he struck the fate bell fiercely. With the sound of the bell ringing, the sword immortal far away also looked at the pantheon in surprise. Hearing the sound, the principal also snapped out of his daze. The fate bell rang 9 times. 9 is the ultimate number, never seen before in ancient times. He indeed activated the supreme deity. Heaven bless Huaxia. We also have a supreme deity. Meanwhile, in Liu Yanren's heart, a storm of shock also surged. You must know this is an SSS level deity, the strongest deity in Huaxia's history. The fate bell only rang 3 times. He actually caused it to ring 9 times. And the commotion here. quickly attracted the attention of Sakura country on the other side. Upon hearing the news, Emperor Tokugawa pounded the table in anger. What a bastard! A kid from Huaxia actually awakened a supreme deity. After saying this, he looked at Matsumoto beside him. Do you have the confidence to deal with him? Upon hearing this, a hint of killing intent appeared in Matsumoto's eyes. The new god, the scroll bearer. Even if he awakened a supreme deity, with his current compatibility ability, it would be difficult to summon on the arena. With my current ability, I can easily tear him and his deity apart. Hearing this, Emperor Tokugawa's heart finally eased a bit. Huaxia and we have generations of blood feud. He cannot be allowed to continue living. Notify downwards. Launch the god-slaying war. Meanwhile, Changsheng, the red light on him gradually dissipated with the fusion. After turning his body, he looked at the emperor deity beside him. But at that moment, the ground suddenly surged. In the next second, Lu Changsheng's figure flew into the sky. Then he was teleported to a different space. Seeing Changsheng transform into a projection, the principal and the city lord beside him were also stunned. There is no room for redemption now. Damn it. Looking at the principal and the city lord's expressions, the Sakura nation, which was just panicking, all burst into excited laughter. They are anxious. They are furious out of shame. And Emperor Tokugawa, behind them, was overjoyed. Although it consumed 10 years of national fortune, but getting rid of a genius, soon, they will be able to take back everything from Huaxia with interest. Meanwhile, the Sword Immortals side also quickly learned about the national fortune war. They also deeply understood what this battle meant. It was aimed at the newly ignited star of Huaxia. Thinking of this, the Sword Immortal couldn't help but clench his fists. In this match, our Huaxia genius. If anything unexpected happens, next year on this day, I will definitely trample on Shijing. As time passed, soon, Matsumoto encountered Changsheng, who had just entered the arena. You inexperienced kid, you should be careful. Even your Huaxia sword, immortal, I can easily tear apart here as well. At this moment, Changsheng was lost in thought, propping up his chin. After all, he still couldn't summon Pangu. I wonder if the emperor, who was just fixed, will appear on the mythological arena. Seeing that Changsheng was ignoring him, Matsumoto slowly walked towards him. What's wrong? Do you not even have the courage to look me in the eye? But just then, Matsumoto inexplicably exuded a pressure. I say, your tongue should be good for making soup. Sharp tongue. In a moment, I will personally take your head to feed my deity. Before long, the host of the myth, Aphrodite, also flew in from the sky. After briefly introducing the battle situation, Aphrodite here once again called out the rules of the divine arena. Looking at the things in front of him, Changsheng's heart also added a touch of ferocity. The victor lives, the loser dies. Family grievances and national hatred. Today, I will settle them all. You and I will determine our strengths and weaknesses, and also decide life and death. Seeing that the two had put away the rules, the first battle representing Changsheng also began at this moment. As Matsumoto revealed his personal information, Changsheng's personal information also unfolded simultaneously. Next, the Battle of the Gods. Sakura Country vs. Huaxia Country. The third round of God Exchange begins. Before the host's voice could finish here, Matsumoto had already placed his hand on the Divine Awakening Stone, entering the Divine Awakening space a step ahead. Just entering the space, Matsumoto couldn't help but mock Changsheng. The 8 banners. God has already torn apart your 2 gods. Tremble, you inexperienced kid. And as Changsheng entered the space, the principal and the city lord both felt a tightness in their hearts. Things still did not go as they hoped. Due to Changsheng's low compatibility with Pangu, the space indeed failed to summon Pangu. This made everyone's hearts tighten. It seems this battle is destined to fail. However, at this moment, Changsheng's gaze was fixed on the figure of the emperor. You should not be forgotten, nor should you be buried in the dust of history. Looking at Changsheng standing before the phantom, the principal and Liu Yanren both looked towards the space. This emperor god of Changsheng is the most hopeful. Is the Tang Taizong Li Shimun recorded in history? Before the dean could say anything else, Changsheng had already stepped forward. The king sweeps the 6 directions. How fierce is his gaze, waving his sword to cut through the floating clouds. All the lords come from the west. A peerless emperor throughout the ages. Future unworthy descendants bow to the first emperor of Huaxia, Yingzheng. As Changsheng's voice fell, a beam of light instantly enveloped the phantom. The entire body tightened around the phantom. The figure became increasingly solid. Seeing this, the city lord and others who were just a bit nervous now stood up excitedly. However, the dean had a worried expression. After all, that was just a divine figure. The strength of a divine figure is generally weaker than that of a demon god of the same level. And Changsheng has just bonded with this divine figure. It is likely very difficult to be a match for the same tier, Yamata no Orochi. Looking at the divine figure summoned by Changsheng, Matsumoto here also showed a hint of disdain in his eyes. As expected, you do not have the ability to summon the creator god. What surprised me even more is, you actually summoned a weak divine figure. But in the face of Matsumoto's taunts, Changsheng still ignored him, bowed his head in respect. Unfilial descendants of later generations. Lu Changsheng pays respects to his ancestors. Later generations forget you. Is indeed unfilial. However, starting from today, future generations will forever remember the first emperor. Congratulations on your sweeping dominance, unified writing and transportation, and the name of the 7 kingdoms. Planted the thought of great unity in the hearts of my great Xia people. Through hundreds of generations, my great Xia people will remember for generations. The land of the motherland cannot be divided. You made it so that no clan relatives exist across the vast mountains and rivers, wantonly trampling on the common people, creating miracles in the world. The majestic Great Wall rises from the ground, protecting the country and its people. You made the world think about unifying and burning evil cults and foolish texts. As these words fell, a beam of golden light enveloped the 2. Character Lu Changsheng compatibility 60%. Seeing the summoned god Yingzheng, Liu Yanren in the audience was astonished with her mouth agape. Is what Lu Changsheng said really the history of Huaxia? Is there such a great emperor with remarkable achievements in Huaxia's history? Meanwhile, on stage, Matsumoto still disdainfully raised his hand. Even if he is an emperor, so what? Waves can a mere human deity stir up? Hearing the sound, Yingzheng finally noticed the noisy insects over here. It was only after hearing that it was the foreign tribes oppressing Huaxia that Yingzheng's expression turned a bit more sinister. A mere foreign tribe. How dare they oppress Huaxia? Those who offend Huaxia will be punished. But these words made the citizens of Sakura country laugh out loud. What did you hear? A mere human deity makes such grand claims. Indeed, it is the deity of Huaxia, most skilled at self-comfort. Meanwhile, Matsumoto in the space also disdainfully curled his lips. No wonder he was once an emperor, truly full of dominance. Even the Yamata no Orochi let out a laugh. A mere human deity. I didn't expect you to be so arrogant as to want to challenge a true deity. Pitiful and laughable. I thought it would be a thrilling battle, but instead, a human deity showed up. How boring. This tiny frame doesn't even have the qualification to be a toothpick for this deity. But at this moment, Yingzheng only slowly raised his hand. Then a beam of golden light began to condense at this moment. The only regret in my life is that I have never tried being a deity. This sword is destined. Seeing this, Yamata no Orochi also erupted with a full aura. Come on, dance the sword to your heart's content. And try not to disappoint this deity. With this strike, you will recognize the gap between demon gods and human gods. A mere mortal, daring to attempt to desecrate a deity. As this strike fell, the entire arena was instantly pierced through with a large hole. Looking at this situation, many citizens of Sakura country stood up disdainfully. It really is without suspense. No one would really believe that a human deity could surpass a true deity, right? But before their voices could fall, a beam of sword light cut through the sky at this moment. I saw Ying Zeng gently wave the sword in his hand. One of Yamata no Orochi's heads fell to the ground. This left Tokugawa, who had just been disdainful, shocked. His mouth was wide open, while shattering Sakura's confidence. The situation here in Huaxia was one of recent insecurity. Also became excited. On the stage at the same time, looking at the missing head, Yamata no Orochi was also taken aback. The power flowing within you is not any divine power. Why can you unleash a strength not weaker than a strong deity? How on earth did you do it? Upon hearing this, Ying Zeng simply crossed the sword in front of his chest. Follow the path to live, go against it to die. This is the culmination of countless ki training in Huaxia, the anti-heavenly ki training technique of the pre-Qin period. Ki training is truly an interesting little gadget. What a pity. What you severed is merely one of my many snakeheads. My body can regenerate from severed limbs. Immortal and indestructible. What right does a mere human deity have to stop me? How dare you harm me here? In the Avicii hell, one shall never be reincarnated. Mortal beings should crawl on the ground in humility. Upon hearing this, Ying Zeng only met his gaze coldly. If I were to be defeated, I would be ashamed before the great Qin. What does it matter if the people die with me? But in my life, I have never had an invincible enemy. Upon hearing this, Yamata no Orochi immediately opened its mouth wide again and lunged at Ying Zeng to bite. But the result was that Ying Zeng severed its head. However, due to Yamata no Orochi having an extremely terrifying regeneration ability, Ying Zeng soon found himself weakened. Seeing this, many spectators below couldn't help but hold their heads. Despair arose in their hearts. And at the same time, Ying Zeng's eyes showed a bit more determination. Immortal and indestructible. Even ancient immortals and gods could not achieve this. Thinking of this, Ying Zeng raised his sword again and charged at Yamata no Orochi. But Yamata no Orochi's regeneration ability still exceeded the Qin King's expectations. Caught off guard, Ying Zeng was solidly hit in the body and then directly flew back into the arena. This caused him to spit out blood, and some of the children of Huaxia couldn't help but shed tears. The dean was even planning to concede with a heart full of despair, because they can no longer let the ancestors of Huaxia sacrifice themselves. But at this moment, Ying Zeng's aura suddenly surged. At this moment, he felt the presence of the Qin. As Ying Zeng stood up again, a golden giant dragon also revealed itself at this moment. Immediately, the Huaxia audience saw one after another phantom appear. With the appearance of the phantoms, Ying Zeng's aura had reached its peak. He was no longer alone now, but represented the countless people of Qin. In an instant, the situation reversed. In a breath, Yamata no Orochi had its countless heads severed in an instant. Seeing this, Matsumoto was instantly dumbfounded. A mere human deity could actually summon so many terrifying beings. No, my Yamata no Orochi will not lose. He then looked at himself, and his eyes also showed a hint of killing intent. Foolish thing. What good is talent? Does time make you grow? Then Matsumoto transformed into a phantom. Just as Changsheng was still observing the battle on the stage, Matsumoto's attack suddenly came from behind him. Seeing this, the audience outside the stage panicked. They hurriedly urged Changsheng to dodge. But after inheriting Pangu's power, Changsheng, not long after Matsumoto disappeared, had already sensed his figure. While dodging, Changsheng pressed down on his arm, and then firmly executed a shoulder throw on him. Watching this scene, the audience outside the stage was once again dumbfounded. They didn't expect Changsheng's strength to be so terrifying. Meanwhile, on the stage, Changsheng merely looked indifferently at the fallen Matsumoto, although he could not summon Pangu now. Even with a low compatibility, his physical strength was already as solid as a rock. Seeing that assassination was not working, Matsumoto also slowly stood up, and his body strangely began to split. After he transformed into two figures, he instantly struck towards Changsheng. However, this time Changsheng did not hold back, and directly grabbed the feet of both people with both hands, then violently slammed them together. No wonder he is an S's level divine roller. So tough. Seeing this, the people from Sakura country on the stage were instantly flustered. Even Tokugawa was trembling in fear at this scene. I didn't expect not only the human gods to be so terrifying, but even the new divine rollers to possess such strength. The current situation has already turned one-sided, but at this moment, Yingzheng merely looked on indifferently. The aura of the eight-headed serpent gradually dissipated. Seeing that he was at a disadvantage, the eight-headed serpent immediately bared its fangs again. In an instant, the citizens of Sakura melted away. The body of the eight-headed serpent became solid again, and the severed head quickly recovered at this moment. After knocking Matsumoto down, Changsheng once again looked towards the figure of the eight-headed serpent. The miracle summoned by the divine roller's death will return to the gate of creation. Must first kill the eight-headed serpent to eliminate future troubles. And the eight-headed serpent, regaining its aura, once again bared its fangs at Yingzheng. Foolish Huaxia people. God, do you think you are fighting against this deity? No, what you are fighting against is the countless Sakura citizens behind me. Your so-called citizens can be discarded like worn-out shoes. Your so-called citizens are just sacrifices of life to become food for your recovery. I have fought for half my life, and in my later years sought the path of immortality. Everyone transforms me. I realized a method in the forest. Though I cannot become an immortal on the spot, I can make all beings as powerful as dragons. As Yingzheng stepped out again, the aura from his entire body was dispersed onto one figure after another. This is the legendary Changsheng Qi refining technique. At this moment, not only did Liu Yanren's divine compatibility soar, but even the bodies of the other Huaxia children were filled with extremely terrifying power. However, this does not come without a cost. At the moment the aura was dispersed, Yingzheng suddenly fell into weakness, entering old age. But at this moment, he still had the people of Huaxia in his heart. Watching this scene, many Huaxia citizens' tears could no longer be held back. So this is their Huaxia ancestor, willing to give everything for his people. Seeing this, the other countries outside the arena all felt admiration for the King of Qin. Yet the King of Qin on the stage slowly raised his head again. Where is the great Qin immortal armor? With this shout, a series of phantom replies echoed across the sky. The punishment clan accompanied Yingzheng to issue the final notice. All the phantoms turned to look at the eight-headed serpent again. After another breath, the head of the eight-headed serpent was completely severed. Knowing he was no match, he once again shouted for the Sakura citizens to sacrifice, and the Sakura citizens below once again turned to mockery. Seeing this situation, Tokugawa's hands were trembling uncontrollably. Now, he was sacrificing the elites of Sakura. So many Sakura citizens here were all kneeling on the ground, demanding the eight-headed serpent to take death willingly. Compared to the wishes of the Huaxia gods, the actions of the eight-headed serpent made many Sakura citizens furious. as a voice calling for death sounded, followed by another. Seeing this, Ying Zheng also picked up the sword in his hand. It seems your people have ultimately abandoned you. And as the king of Qin swung his sword again, an azure dragon quietly appeared behind him. In this battle, the eight-headed serpent rose again. Cannot witness the eight-headed serpent's death. Changsheng also looked at Matsumoto. Then there's no need to spare your life. He then stepped on and broke his spine. Then calmly walked towards the stage. Now I announce Huaxia's Liu Changshen vs. Sakura's Matsumoto Genzo. Liu Changsheng wins. Watching this scene, the dean and the city lord were also surprised, with their mouths agape. This is truly a mortal body standing shoulder to shoulder with the divine. At the same time, the host on stage also made an announcement. The next divine battle will commence. After a short break, please prepare the divine representatives of both nations. As the voice here fell, Ying Zheng's aura unexpectedly weakened rapidly at this moment. Seeing this, the audience from Huaxia looked up at the stage in panic. But they could do nothing now. Because Huaxia had almost no faith power in this deity. This battle had already harmed his essence. As Ying Zheng's aura gradually dissipated, his body once again transformed into a Changsheng. I may not be able to accompany you any longer. I have only one wish. A wish for all living beings in the world. Before he could finish his words, the ancestor Ying Zheng had already left this world. Watching the ancestor exhaust his life for Huaxia, even the usually serious dean had tears welling up in his eyes. Filial descendants, forgetting you. But little did they know. At this moment, Changsheng on stage received a system message. Unexpectedly, the first emperor had not dissipated. After gathering faith power, he could be summoned again. Not only that, after summoning the first emperor to increase compatibility of his innate deity, Pangu, actually, also improved. Thinking of this, his heart was no longer filled with the sadness from before. He then looked down at the stage and shouted loudly that the first emperor had not left him. He had only taken a temporary rest. When the name of the first emperor is once again sung in Huaxia, it will be the time of his return. The dean and the city lord also let out a sigh of relief, recording the deeds of the first emperor in books and classics, to let the world forever pass on our legacy. We cannot let the deities of Huaxia be buried in the dust of history. At the same time, the sword immortal happened to catch the end of the match. But just as he was feeling relieved, the assistant beside him had an extremely cold expression, opening the divine arena with ignorant blood. Seeing this, the sword cultivator was instantly dumbfounded. He never expected that the person beside him would be a spy. And the dentist no longer pretended. Without you, Huaxia, even with a highly talented genius like Tianj, it is destined to be strangled in the cradle. The nation of Huaxia is destined to belong to our Sakura country. Seeing this, the sword immortal slowly drew his long sword. Truly, one reaps what they sow. And the news here quickly reached the dean's ears. So the dean then looked at everyone, indicating that for the next battle, a new candidate needs to be selected. Upon hearing this, many sons and daughters of Huaxia clenched their fists. They never expected the opponent to be so despicable. As the fourth match was about to begin, the dean also stepped forward and came to Changsheng's side. Changsheng, you have exhausted your energy in the last battle. Let me fight in the next match. But at this moment, Changsheng directly rejected the dean's request. I have a higher chance of winning. Let me fight instead. Changsheng, don't be stubborn. Yeah, let the dean go. After all, Changsheng doesn't know every miraculous summon. You can recognize. The dean is knowledgeable. His strength is the best among the 4 major academies of Huaxia. His chances of winning are higher. But upon hearing this, Changsheng turned his head. Actually, I once had a dream. As Changsheng spoke, The scenery outside suddenly changed dramatically. In the dream, an elderly immortal had a smile on his face, gently stroking the top of my head. After waking up, the hidden myths of Huaxia appeared in my mind. After speaking, the surrounding environment returned to normal. Seeing this, the dean beside him couldn't help but feel emotional. No wonder Changsheng can recognize the deities in the texts that have never appeared before. So he immediately looked at Changsheng with a determined gaze. But at this moment, the city lord still came to his side, urging him to do his best, saying it's unnecessary to act impulsively and lose his life. Upon hearing this, Changsheng remained silent. He just slowly spoke again. The phoenix soars, reflecting the 9 clouds. In my rebirth, I must go to Kunlun. With a red fruit in my mouth, I bring peace to the world. A lamp of golden light stabilizes the 8 directions. As these words fell, the mysterious bird unexpectedly burst forth with an incredibly dazzling light. Seeing this, the others instantly gasped in surprise. I didn't expect the dean's mysterious bird to actually be the ancient deity, the phoenix. What was even more unexpected was that Changsheng's casual description actually added new divinity to the mysterious bird. Watching the mysterious bird reveal its former brilliance again, before the dean could say anything else, Changsheng turned his body once more, and then slowly approached Liu Yanren. The martial god has been renowned throughout history, the god of war in the Battle of Champing, with iron horses and golden spears sweeping across the 6 states. His might shakes the 4 corners, a divine artifact of ghosts. As Changsheng's words fell again, he turned around to look at the dean once more. At this moment, no one doubted Changsheng's strength anymore. You must know that bestowing divinity consumes one's lifespan. What Changsheng is doing here is igniting a spark of hope for Huaxia with his life. As time passed, the 4th match began again. Representing Huaxia, it was still Changsheng who took the stage. While on the Cherry Blossom side, it was Cherry Blossom Kong who fought. As the match just started, the Emperor of Tokugawa was already full of confidence. On one side were the activated shadow spies, and on the other was Cherry Blossom Kong's divine being, who was extremely skilled in the art of charm. In his eyes, it was certain that Huaxia would lose. At the same time, Huaxia was equally terrified. You must know that this time, the Cherry Blossom's combatant, the divine scrollbearer, had no information at all. As Cherry Blossom Kong lightly touched the divine awakening at that moment, scrolls of paintings appeared out of thin air. Soon, Cherry Blossom Kong completed the summoning. But at this moment, Lu Changsheng stood by and watched. He was slow to take any action. For a moment, the people below were as anxious as grasshoppers on a hot pan. You must know that the awakening time was already less than 1 minute. As they watched Cherry Blossom Kong successfully awaken, behind him appeared a 9-tailed demon god. The other countries were all taken aback. The current deity was not only extremely beautiful, but even her demeanor was somewhat enchanting. At the moment she appeared, many weak-willed individuals were captivated. Seeing this, the audience from Huaxia held their breath, only able to pray that Lu Changsheng would not be enchanted. But Lu Changsheng, who had been silent, now had a smile at the corner of his mouth. Indeed, the deity he summoned was Tamamo no Mei, the leader of the 3 great demon kings of the former Cherry Blossom Nation. Since he already knew the deity he summoned, there was no need to wait any longer. Then Lu Changsheng also placed his hand on the divine awakening stone, and as the light burst forth, Lu Changsheng's heart was also taken aback. He did not expect that the summoned deity would be this one. The one fighting now was the Marshal of Heaven, the leader of the 4 saints. Seeing this, the city lord and the dean from Huaxia were also breathless, daring not to make a sound. Even Zhou Hao and Liu Yanren couldn't help but shake their heads and sigh. You must know that the personal deity can determine the awakening of the divine artifact, and the Pangu that Changsheng awakened earlier was clearly a human deity. If the wrong divine artifact is awakened, it would turn into ridicule. However, at this moment, Lu Changsheng took a firm step forward. Marshal of Heaven, guarding the heavenly gate. His armored figure reflected in Japan and Korea. The nine-toothed rake dominates, changing the situation against countless enemies. Junior Lu Changsheng respectfully welcomes Marshal of Heaven. Hearing this, Zhu Gangli, the Cherry Blossom Nation erupted in waves of ridicule. After all, the ancestors who awakened the demon gods earlier had all died suddenly. On the divine artifact platform, in their eyes, Changsheng was no different from a corpse. But as Changsheng's voice fell, a handsome man also appeared from the scroll. As that figure became more solid, the Cherry Blossom Nation instantly widened their eyes. I didn't expect Changsheng to truly awaken the demon god. At the same time, the dean was also overjoyed. Could it be that Pangu is not limited to the divine artifacts of human deities? However, at the same time, Emperor Tokugawa was already so angry that he gritted his teeth. This demon god still has a male form. I believe no man can resist the allure of the bath. Earlier, with Lu Changsheng's successful awakening of the spirit, a tall and upright man also appeared on the arena. Listening to the noise outside, Tianpeng also looked at Changsheng beside him. Why is it so noisy outside? Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng raised his arm. This is the mythological arena. Foreign races oppress the younger generation of Huaxia. Lu Changsheng earnestly requests Marshal Tianpeng to suppress the foreign gods. However, upon hearing this, Tianpeng, at that moment, put away the nine-toothed rake. What does the oppression of Huaxia by foreign races have to do with me? I just want to quietly enjoy the moon, silently accompany him. Saying this, Tianpeng walked towards outside the arena. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng hurriedly bowed to keep him. Seeing Tianpeng unmoved, Changsheng then no longer bowed. Do you still want to see Chang? Do you still want to see Monkey King and the Master? These words instantly made him stop in his tracks. The incense here is thin. It can be called the end of the Dharma age. You actually know Chang? And you know that monkey and the monk. Seeing there is hope, Changsheng then spoke again, stating that he not only knows, but also has the ability to awaken the other party. Upon hearing this, Tianpeng felt bored. People nowadays can't even boast. But Changsheng here did not notice the change in his expression. I know, Brother Zhu, you don't want to be someone else's pawn. But if I can awaken the gods of Huaxia to rise, the power of the gods and Buddhas fills the sky, to tear apart that boundless darkness, and restore the innocence and dignity you once lost. To let Chang, the great sage, and Zunzang break free from all restraints. Would you be willing to fight? As these words fell on Tianpeng's ears, for a moment, a terrifying aura erupted from his body, a truly horrifying presence. Arrogant little brat, are you not just mocking me here? The second battle of the National Fortune Arena has finally begun. And as the representative of Tianpeng Star, Liu Baji made his first appearance, showing a disdain for battle. It's just the round for requesting a battle. Lu Changsheng was tightly grasped by Tianpeng's throat, forced to helplessly summon the true form of Pangu. And with the appearance of Pangu, Zhu Gangli's movements froze in mid-air. The phantom in the air showed him hope in a desperate situation. At this point, he could no longer suppress his inner excitement, quickly putting away his rude attitude. I didn't expect, kid, that you could actually awaken the great Pangu. I really underestimated you. Seeing this, Changsheng immediately requested Tianpeng to battle again. Upon hearing this, Tianpeng also changed his previous attitude. Since the great Pangu is willing to submit to you, I, old pig, can believe it. Say, who are we fighting next? And looking at the distant Tamamo no Mei, for a moment, Changsheng didn't know what to say. After a long pause, Changsheng finally revealed the opponent's background. A nine-tailed fox from a different race, skilled in enchantment. with an unusual attraction to men. But upon hearing this, Tianpeng began to move his body. Just a little ant. Demon. I thought it would be a bigger problem. Seeing that Changsheng was reluctant to fight on the stage, Sakura over here couldn't help but burst into laughter. It seems the new divine favorite of Huaxia has already been completely captivated by the cherry blossom. Before their mockery could continue, Tianpeng on the stage has already drawn his weapon, transformed again into a handsome man. This miraculous transformation instantly stirred up a great wave in the hearts of many nations. This ancient demon god of Huaxia, indeed, possesses formidable divine power, but the most still want to see this demon god, whether he can withstand Tamemo's charm. As Tianpeng took out his weapon, Sakura over here also stopped watching and slowly moved towards Changsheng. Lusang has to say, you and the deity you awakened are very charming. But I have a great proposal. Lusang, why not join us at Cherry Blossom Valley? We will definitely treat you as our honored guest. We won't be like the Huaxia nation. Let the newly awakened genius, divine scroll user take risks. In a series of divine battles, the Great Cherry Blossom Festival will honor your deity. We will spare no effort to help you grow. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng's gaze was extremely firm. His heart was not shaken in the slightest. But this operation made the dean below extremely nervous. I didn't expect that Cherry Blossom Kong would start with palace intrigue. Truly worthy of being a deity with enchanting skills. But the two who could only watch, could only pray that Changsheng would not be swayed. Changsheng remained indifferent. Over here, Cherry Blossom Kong raised his arm again. What we can offer is not just supreme power and wealth, but also, after saying this, he quietly activated his enchanting skills, and the terror of this technique also caused many weak-willed individuals below to begin to falter and sway. So they also turned their gaze to Changsheng, eager to know how Changsheng would choose, and facing the other's temptation. Changsheng's gaze remained unwavering, directly rejecting Cherry Blossom Kong's invitation. However, at this moment, Cherry Blossom Kong's mouth subtly curled up, secretly turning the enchanting technique to maximum power. If I'm still not enough, any female divine favored one from our Cherry Blossom nation can be picked at your leisure. On the audience side of the Cherry Blossom, Yan Ba instantly revealed a large number of beautiful phantoms, surrounding Changsheng completely. Seeing this, his palm suddenly made a gesture. As the divine weapon projection emerged, a terrifying aura instantly appeared, and the illusion was completely shattered by this impact. Unfathomable. Upon hearing this, Cherry Blossom Kong was not angry, just lightly pointed with his index finger. The disappointment in his words was even more evident. What a pity, you could have had a bright future. Upon hearing this, Changsheng's aura once again surged. To say the least, dignity only exists at the tip of the sword. Truth only lies within the cannon's range. Blindly retreating and avoiding will only make those who bully you more rampant, unrestrained. If I back down, how can I face the millions behind me? Huaxia is a nation of etiquette, treating friends with fine wine and delicacies, but towards enemies, there is only war. As these words fell, many Huaxia people who had just been enchanted instantly broke free from the illusion. For a moment, the voices of attacking foreign tribes resounded throughout the arena. At the same time, Changsheng also took an attacking stance, and at this moment, a surge of righteous energy appeared in the nearby pantheon, also made the cleaning boy's heart tremble instantly. With the emergence of that righteous energy, the national fortune of Huaxia instantly doubled or more. On the other side, as Changsheng moved his figure, he also instantly appeared above the opponent. Seeing this, Cherry Blossom Kong no longer cast enchantment. At the same time, he took out a folding fan to attack. With this clash, The skill that Cherry Blossom Kong had just cast was also shattered like a withered tree. Now, Cherry Blossom Kong's forehead was also drenched in cold sweat. I didn't expect that just a newcomer could unleash such an attack. This person must not be left alive. Saying this, Cherry Blossom Kong began to quickly form seals. As the spell was completed, 3 figures instantly appeared in the space. Their forms were almost identical to Cherry Blossom Kong, and these were the clones of the people from the Cherry Blossom Nation. Looking at the figure in front of him, he did not dare to be careless in the slightest, because at this moment, Cherry Blossom Kong's aura told him his magical power far exceeded Matsumoto Genzo. As their gazes met, the treasured sword in Cherry Blossom Kong's hand also unsheathed simultaneously. 2 heavens, 1 flowing empty slash. Looking at the dense attacks sweeping out, Chongsheng couldn't help but shiver. But after regaining his composure, Chongsheng immediately possessed himself. Looking at the 4 attacks that brushed past, his heart was stirred with turbulent waves. I didn't expect that Cherry Blossom Kong was not just limited to charm. Her attack power was equally impressive. Seeing Chongsheng on the ground in such a sorry state, Cherry Blossom Kong was also filled with disdain. Her taunts continued without pause. After saying this, she raised her treasured sword again, indicating that the next strike would determine the victor. Soon, Cherry Blossom Kong's attack came once more. The current situation had already pushed Chongsheng into a dead end. But as long as there was a breath left, with a loud shout from him, an even more powerful attack erupted from the 9-toothed rake. The debris it carried instantly scattered her attack. But what's even more terrifying is that Chongsheng's strike has a 2-stage explosion. Now, Cherry Blossom Kong directly took the full explosion damage. Seeing Chongsheng come close, Cherry Blossom Kong also reluctantly raised her head. She didn't expect that her flawless clone would be shattered by a single blow. Meanwhile, on the other side, as the battle began, Tamamo no Mei also looked seductively at Tenpu. "You pig, demon, if you kneel before me, I can let you have a glimpse of the scenery under my skirt." Hearing this, Tenpu looked up at the sky, completely ignoring Tamamo no Mei's gaze. "Compared to him, you're extremely ugly." Hearing this, Tamamo no Mei was momentarily stunned. This was the first time someone had called him ugly. Before he could regain his composure, Tenpu's attack was already in front of him. But this strike did not cause any effective damage. Tamamo no Mei quickly sidestepped, avoiding Tenpu. At the same time, the attack in his hand began to condense at this moment. As the spell was activated, Tamamo no Mei's figure instantly swelled. The powerful aura of the demon god also made Tenpu feel breathless. But at this moment, Tamamo no Mei did not stop. The wrath of the celestial demon followed closely. For a moment, the atmosphere on the stage was instantly occupied by Tamamo no Mei. At the same time, Chongsheng also gritted his teeth. He didn't expect that with the enhancement of the divine artifact, the demon power would surge nearly tenfold. But at this time, Tenpu's aura also surged simultaneously. As the heavenly and earthly law forms emerged, the auras balanced out again. 2 violent energies began to collide invisibly. Seeing Tenpu simultaneously unleash his aura, Tamamo no Mei's actions followed closely. That attack, while targeting Tenpu, strangely began to split. The sudden scene left Tenpu somewhat at a loss. But soon he adapted to the rhythm of his attacks. With Tenpu's strike, those troublesome demon flames were instantly dispersed, and the remaining attacks pressed directly towards Tamamo no Mei's face. Seeing this scene, Chongsheng was once again startled. You must know that Tamamo no Mei is a 3S level deity, while Tenpu's level is far below that of the opponent. After pondering for a moment, Chongsheng finally understood the reasoning. That is, one must never rely on awakening levels to judge the strength of any deity. Seeing himself being suppressed, Tamamo no Mae's aura began to surge again at this moment. As he raised his arms high, the entire space gradually changed color. Even outside the arena, the sky began to darken. In an instant, the entire venue turned into Tamamo no Mae's domain. With this strike, Tamamo no Mae was full of confidence. The burning foxfire was enough to turn the dead pig in front of him to ashes. This is the absolute confidence brought by being a demon god. As this strike went down, the entire arena was surrounded by endless foxfire. Its terrifying pressure even pierced through space to reach outside the stage. Seeing this, the dean's heart was in his throat. But at this moment, Tenpu was raising one arm alone, accompanied by a voice calling for water. Above Tenpu's head, not only did an incredibly solid barrier appear, but the Phantom of Lei Gong and Dian Mu also launched an attack simultaneously, facing the endless lightning. Tamamo no Mae, who had just held the advantage, was suddenly forced to flee in all directions. Watching this scene, Sakura's heart was stirred with great waves. As the attack ended, a deep chasm also appeared in front of Tamamo no Mae, facing the unresistible pressure. A cold sweat quietly hung on his cheek, but at this moment, Tenpu's actions did not stop. Stream after stream of water began to swirl around him, and this was one of Tenpu's 36 transformations, calling the wind and rain. That water is not ordinary mortal water, but comes from the heavenly river. As his gaze slightly shifted, the Hu Huo, who had just been showing off his strength, was completely extinguished by the stream of water. Seeing this, Tamamo no Mae couldn't help but shiver. But before he could react, Tenpu's figure once again floated in mid-air. This scene left all the citizens of Sakura feeling despondent. With the simultaneous enhancement of gravity and wind control, this strike from Tenpu was close to overwhelming. Yet Tamamo no Mae did not give up resisting. As he moved his hands in a flurry, the divine barrier was activated at that moment. At the moment of their collision, a clever balance was surprisingly formed. But with the appearance of a crack, the power of the divine artifact shattered drastically. Seeing this, he instantly collapsed to the ground, his eyes filled with disbelief. Watching Tenpu regain the upper hand, the people of Huaxia also cheered loudly. In contrast, the Sakura nation, which had just been shouting, fell silent. As the divine artifact was damaged, Tenpu immediately swung out the nine-toothed rake again. However, with this strike, the nine-toothed rake strangely missed its target. Seeing this, Tenpu's heart tightened. But as the phantom in place dissipated, Tamamo no Mae's figure appeared 2 meters away. At this point, he had lost all will to fight. The Tenpu in front of him not only had brute strength, but was also unmatched in martial arts, and even proficient in spells. Now, he had almost no chance of winning. Thinking of this, Tamamo no Mae's gaze involuntarily turned towards Changsheng. He never expected such a terrifying divine scroll to appear in Huaxia. Seeing Tamamo no Mae's figure escape, the corner of Tenpu's mouth slowly curled up. I can use escape techniques too. And as the water light flowed around him, after another breath, his figure reappeared in front of Tamamo no Mae. With almost no time to react, Tamamo no Mae was solidly hit in the abdomen. The forceful strike instantly made him stagger back. After stabilizing his form, he was just about to stand up again, when he spat out a mouthful of blood. At this point, Tamamo no Mae no longer held back. As he spread his arms, 3 terrifying auras descended at that moment. And the bearers of the 3 auras were not friendly. They were the other 3 demons among the 4, Amaterasu, Kaiten, and Sukamaru. As soon as they met, Sukamaru activated the demon Isor domain. Amaterasu, beside him, raised both arms high. The pressure from the 3 instantly occupied the entire area again. Seeing this, Tenpu's gaze became even sharper. In the next second, his form transformed into an eagle, beginning to evade under the attacks of the 3. After creating some distance from the three, Tenpu also transformed back to his true form. They are just some true spirits. Even if it's the true form. I, old pig, am not afraid at all. Upon hearing this, Tamamo no Mae still had a cold smile on his lips. Then why are you avoiding it? When a turtle withdraws its head, who says I, old pig, am fleeing? After saying this, Tenpu's aura continued to rise. The laws of heaven and earth were once again invoked by him. The nine-toothed rake in his hand was gradually growing larger, as another sound of the Milky Way's water echoed. Streams of water began to swirl above the nine-toothed rake. At this moment, the aura of Grand Marshal Tenpu was unmistakable. He raised the nine-toothed rake high, and the azure dragon formed from the gathered water, instantly materialized. In just a moment, the water dragon had arrived in front of the three true spirits. The pressure before them made the three true spirits unable to breathe. They could only watch helplessly as the water dragon gradually approached. With this strike, Sukamaru and Kai Ten's true spirits instantly dissipated. But Amaterasu, relying on his agile form, moved quickly within the flow of water. Seeing that he had left the danger zone, Amaterasu gritted his teeth in anger. You, pig, demon, have really angered me. After saying that, he raised his arm once again. A destructive attack gradually revealed its form. As this strike was unleashed, the attack split into countless flames once more. With this strike, Tenpu did not dare to be careless at all. After picking up the nine-toothed rake, flame after flame forced his body to gradually start retreating. Hearing a deafening sound, Tenpu was also obscured by smoke. Seeing this scene, the previously silent Sakura Valley instantly sat up in excitement. Even though it was just a wisp of true spirit, it could still exert terrifying power. This is the ultimate technique of the divine miracle, Amaterasu's divine punishment. And as Amaterasu's attack continued, Tenpu's body was like a kite with a broken string, instantly sent flying. The nine-toothed rake in his hand was thrown more than 2 meters away. This made the hearts of all the people of Huaxia instantly tighten. Unexpectedly, Grand Marshal Tenpu actually fell down. Seeing Tenpu lying on the ground and not getting up, Amaterasu's figure instantly appeared beside him, and the killing intent in his eyes had condensed into a tangible blade of light. For a moment, the scene became extremely quiet. 99. A cold snort from Amaterasu echoed on the arena. Just a mere pig demon. A useless beast. But at that moment, Tenpu's voice rang out again. Feeling refreshed. Seeing this, Amaterasu was filled with disbelief. Having taken his full force strike, unexpectedly, this pig demon could still stand up. Before he could react, a pair of large hands came rushing towards him. Caught off guard, he was suddenly grabbed tightly by the throat by Tenpu. What terrified him even more was, at the moment he was grasped by Tenpu, the divine power within him was instantly drained, almost completely losing the ability to release divine light. You are not wrong. I am just a pig demon, but I will never let myself be slaughtered. With that, Tenpu slammed him hard into the ground. Before the impact ended, he grabbed his collar again and began a merciless body slam on the spot. Seeing this scene, the audience from Huaxia also raised their arms high, cheering loudly, and in no time, Amaterasu was also slammed by Tenpu, her true spirit dissipating. But his actions did not stop there, as he picked up the nine-toothed rake again. In the distance, Tamamo no Mae was also frightened to the point of losing her composure. She could only watch helplessly as Tenpu killed her with a single rake. Seeing Tamamo no Mae perish, Tenpu also immediately transformed back to his true form. And over here, Changsheng also took big steps toward his position. But at this moment, his voice stopped him from moving his feet. Stop, come any closer to me. Upon hearing this, Changsheng was also taken aback, but before he could say anything, Tenpu's body could no longer hold on and fell to the ground. Seeing this, the citizens of Huaxia were also confused. Clearly, he had won the fight. So why did Tenpu fall to the ground? Meanwhile, on the stage, Tenpu's eyes were also filled with desolation. I really don't want you to see me in such a sorry state. In his eyes, always a towering and legendary hero. But, I am weak. If I hadn't been so insecure back then, if I had been a bit braver, would the outcome have been different? Promise me that if I die, you must find the senior brother and master, and bring them to my grave. To say that I, a pig, am not a coward. Upon hearing this, Changsheng's heart was also instantly tugged. He unconsciously tightened his grip on his hand. No, I want you to say it yourself. After saying this, Changsheng's voice echoed throughout the arena. The people of Huaxia offer their respect without gods. Hearing this, the dean outside the stage was also taken aback. But after a moment, he regained his composure and quickly called on the citizens of Huaxia to contribute food. And just after the dean's voice fell, in countless households far from the arena, they hurriedly brought out offerings. As one after another, the scent of smoke and fire appeared. The phantom of Tianpeng was also wrapped in an extremely dazzling light. With the contributions from Huaxia, Tianpeng's gradually closing eyes actually began to slowly open again. And at the same time, in the pantheon, a figure slightly inferior to Pangu was also gradually condensing within the pantheon. As Changsheng's second battle came to a close, Aphrodite also announced Huaxia's victory this time. And next is the tense and exciting final round. Meanwhile, on the Huaxia side, as Tianpeng gradually recovered, one by one, the children of Huaxia also began to pray for Tianpeng. After all, without any power of faith, to defeat a 3 seconds level deity, no one can imagine what kind of willpower the deities of Huaxia possess. At the same time, on the arena, looking at Changsheng's tears as Tianpeng recovers, he also slowly turned his head. Kid, don't cry anymore. I, old pig, am not dead yet. This time we won. Seeing this, the country of the sticks also began to speculate. After all, the deities of Huaxia could easily defeat their opponents, but they always end up getting hurt themselves. Listening to the words around him, the representatives in the front row also looked a bit more serious. The power of faith in Huaxia is weak. These deities have no power of worship. Naturally so, Huaxia's victories in these two matches were just luck, right? On the other side of the arena, after Tianpeng got up, he looked at Changsheng beside him again. The next path is for you to walk on your own. I, old pig, should go find my white moonlight now. As he spoke, Tianpeng's footsteps also moved to the other side. Before Changsheng could say anything, Tianpeng spoke again, reminding him not to forget the promise he made. Hearing this, Changsheng was momentarily speechless. After a long time, he bowed and saluted to send off Marshal Tianpeng. As this voice fell, Tianpeng's body gradually became ethereal, then dissipated in this world. Seeing this scene, the dean's expression also became extremely serious. Pass on my orders. All records of deities within Huaxia, Marshal Tianpeng, Zhu Gangli. We must make his deeds known to all. After saying this, he clenched his fists again, slowly turned his face to look back. Do not let the deities of Huaxia be forgotten again. As the golden crow soared into the sky again, Tianpeng's deeds were also permanently imprinted in the hearts of every citizen of Huaxia. On the other side, outside the arena, looking at Tianpeng on the stage, the city lord here still couldn't shake off the gloom in his heart for a long time. Clearly a deity who expanded Huaxia's territory, but he didn't recognize a single one from his memory. Every time he thought of this, his heart was filled with endless shame. But fortunately, they still have Changsheng. Now, Changsheng is Huaxia's greatest hope, and Changsheng's battle came to an end. The shadow spy fighting against the sword immortal also determined the victor, as the sword immortal sheathed his long sword. But the secretary's eyes were filled with reluctance. He could only look blankly ahead. He didn't expect the gap between him and his strength to be so vast. But until the secretary fell to the ground, the sword immortal's heart grew increasingly tense. He could only pray that it was not too late. After a brief rest, Aphrodite also made her appearance again. The final battle will determine the ownership of half of the land and population between the two countries. Now, please have both sides send out their representatives for battle. Wensheng's heart also sank. But just as he was preparing to take the stage, a pair of large hands quietly pressed down on his shoulders. All right, you've done enough. Now, it's my turn to take action. Seeing this, Changsheng was taken aback. I know the hidden history of deities in Huaxia. Let me go. Exactly. The next match should be mine. Now is the final battle. With your compatibility with the deity, it is impossible to deal with the trump card of Sakura country. Huaxia still needs your growth. As he spoke, a phantom appeared beside him. Don't forget, I was once a genius with high hopes as well. However, just as the city lord's voice fell, the sword immortal's voice rang in their ears. All right, Lao Bai. Let me go instead. Hearing this, the city lord was overjoyed. Lao Liu, I thought you wouldn't make it today. The rise and fall of the nation, how could I dare to delay? Unfortunately, the spies from Sakura country are cunning. All right, time is running out. Seeing that there are only 30 seconds left on the countdown, the sword immortal's figure suddenly vanished from the spot, and when he reappeared, he was already standing in the center of the arena. After stabilizing his stance, Liu Qing's voice echoed throughout the arena. Huaxia Liu Qing is here. Who dares to fight? Seeing this, a young man from Sakura country narrowed his eyes without showing any emotion. Until only 10 seconds were left, he slowly stretched his body. Then a purple phantom appeared. The young man's figure also appeared on the stage at the same time. Sakura country's Yamada Takumi is willing to fight him. Just as Yamada Takumi appeared on the stage, the Sakura audience erupted in joy. Although they felt Yamada might have overestimated Huaxia's strength, the fact that the sword immortal could see him was already worth it. Meanwhile, in the Huaxia audience, looking at the figure on stage, many Huaxia citizens felt hopeless. Unexpectedly, the opponent sent their divine son this time. Hearing the words around him, Cheng Shem also looked at the dean in confusion, and the dean's heart was in his throat at that moment. He is the only divine son of Sakura country in 4,000 years, known as the Empire's unparalleled genius, and S's level divine favored one. On the day of his 18th birthday ceremony, he once killed Huaxia's third strongest, Luo Jun, along with his patron deity, the East Sea Dragon God. During that battle, Luo Jun had almost no chance to fight back, and the East Sea Dragon God was cruelly drained of its dragon crystal. With the fall of the Dragon God, the sky changed dramatically that day. Even more terrifying is that his deity is rumored to be one of the supreme three noble gods of Sakura country, with a compatibility rate exceeding an astonishing 80%. Listening to the words around him, for a moment, Chang Sheng's palms unconsciously began to clench. If the sword immortal loses, I will definitely challenge him to a divine battle. Meanwhile, on the stage, looking at the distant sword, immortal Liu Qing, Yamada Takumi's gaze was filled with disdain. Seeing this, Liu Qing also drew the long sword from his back. We need not say much. 10 years ago, because you killed the East Sea Dragon God, it caused years of drought in Huizhou, resulting in a complete harvest failure, with starving people everywhere. Have you ever seen a baby girl in her mother's arms, literally dying of thirst in her mother's embrace? Today, rational grievances and family hatreds, we will settle them all together. But listening to Liu Qing's words, Yamada Takumi couldn't help but curl his lips with interest. Then you should feel honored. Honored to become the great Amaterasu, the weapon of the divine scroll-bearer. His bones and muscles will once again shine with glory in his sister's hands. To those who crow at dawn, when the day comes for them to surrender to the cherry blossoms, they will surely feel supreme glory. Upon hearing this, the citizens of Huaxia gritted their teeth in anger. At the same time, Chang Shem was equally furious. Yamada's arrogance and contempt were already evident. It seems the teacher was right. A weak country has no diplomacy. We must strike them hard, make them retract their contempt, and force them to submit completely. As the two appeared on the stage, Aphrodite waved her hand. Since both competitors have been confirmed, the following are the personal details of the combatants. As his voice fell, personal panels appeared beside both of them. Seeing this, outside the other side of the stage, the leader of the British Empire simultaneously issued a notice. After Huaxia's defeat, they declared war in advance, to devour the flesh and blood of the defeated nation. We want the flag of the British Empire to spread across the globe. Beside them, the stick country and the land of India also secretly curled their lips. Especially the land of India was even more watchful, wanting to make Huaxia a sacrifice to the god of release. And as Yamada Takumi connected with the divine awakening, a phantom also appeared beside him. As the phantom became more solid, a figure appeared to his left. Seeing this, the cherry blossom side was even more excited, raising their arms high. This time, we must completely tear off Huaxia's last shred of shame, and utterly destroy the gods of Huaxia. At the same time, the dean of Huaxia also looked extremely grim. I believe this battle will be very difficult. As Liang King summoned the sword immortal Li Bai, the final battle between Huaxia and Sakura officially began. But after Aphrodite finished speaking, Li Bai picked up the wine flask at his waist. After happily drinking some wine, his gaze turned to the distant sky. It's a pity that a pot of wine among the flowers is enjoyed alone without companionship. I wonder where Gao Shi is, with his lofty demeanor, and whether my old friends are stuck in the mud. Yet they still gaze at this starry sky with me. Seeing this, Yamada Takumi let out a cold snort. As he raised his arm, around him, lightning suddenly appeared, surrounding him. Almost at the same time, a rapid attack also appeared above Liu Qing's head. Before he could react, the attack had already landed beside him. Are the gods of Huaxia so arrogant? Following Yamada's gaze, the sword immortal had already collapsed to the ground, and his right arm had vanished without a trace. Just after the sword immortal's arm was destroyed, the battle between Zhu Zuo and Li Bai also began simultaneously. But Liu Qing, who had lost an arm, now had greatly diminished combat power. What he never expected was that the previous sword would be so terrifying, silently taking his arm away. Now, facing the ropes of Sakura, he could only barely stand up. This scene made many Huaxia citizens in the audience feel a tightness in their hearts. At the same time, Chang Shem also clenched his fists. But at this moment, the sword immortal was slowly standing up, muttering, "The orchard stone has no eyes. When the sun rises tomorrow, the stars will sink." As these words fell, in front of the sword immortal, light suddenly began to gather, one after another. Before long, a hilt appeared in front of him, and in the blink of an eye, it transformed into a long sword. Seeing this, the dean also gasped in surprise. This is the sword immortal's Dao fruit. The Dao fruit is formless. His Dao fruit is a sword. Hearing this, Chang Sheng looked at the dean in confusion. What is a Dao fruit? That is, the essence possessed by every divine scroll practitioner who is cultivated to a certain height. The Dao fruit, divine sound, and golden core are all the essence of Huaxia divine scroll practitioners. But once the essence is released, it is either life or death. Upon hearing this, Chang Shem finally understood in his heart. The Sword Immortal's actions were a desperate gamble. On the stage, Yamada Takumi, also, was momentarily stunned. Crazy, to so easily sacrifice one's own essence to enhance divinity. Even if you win, you won't live much longer. For decades, fighting foreign tribes beyond the borders, countless bones have forged a new path. To destroy it today is indeed a bit reluctant. Once these words were spoken, the scene fell into a rare calm again. Just like that, the two locked eyes. For a long, long time, Yamada Takumi finally spoke again. Then do you still dare to speak? The Sword Immortal just laughed heartily. My Dao fruit is the sword's edge unsheathed. It is also to protect the lights of thousands of homes. People like you, born with a silver spoon, the royal nobility. How could you possibly know? After saying this, the Sword Immortal raised his arm, and the long sword in front of him began to change its movements. With this call of the swords outside seemed to respond to the summons, drawing their swords from their sheaths one after another. Then they fused with the Sword Immortal's phantom. Come on, let's fight. On the other side, seeing Li Bai still leisurely drinking, Zhu Zuo felt a bit more anger in his heart. I have never seen someone so audacious in front of me. Who dares to challenge the divine? Li Bai slowly put down the wine pot. How can one bow and bend to the powerful? It makes it impossible for me to be happy. And Zuo heard this, and let out a cold snort. Then he glanced at the Sword Immortal not far away. With this, he raised his long sword, and his figure instantly approached Shanshan. Feeling the sword, intent of the Sword Immortal, he also broke out in a cold sweat on his forehead. If this sword were to fall, I'm afraid he would die on the spot. In this moment of thought, the long sword wielded by Liu Xinghui had quietly arrived in front of him. Seeing this, Shanshan directly used instant step, dodging among the countless long swords. Looking at this scene, Zhu Zuo also let out a long sigh. Then he slowly raised his arm. Heavenly Might Domain. As his voice fell, in front of Li Bai, was instantly surrounded by waves of purple lightning. Seeing this, the corner of Li Bai's mouth quietly curled up. With the sound of a bird's cry ringing out, the long sword in his hand was also swung out at the same time. This sword directly struck countless cracks in Zhu Zuo's barrier. However, Zhu Zuo also found it interesting. Then he raised his arm again, and the lightning began to gather in his palm. In half a breath, a long sword also appeared in his hand. The heavenly movement has arrived. Caught off guard, Li Bai was instantly struck hard. Seeing this, the hearts of the Chinese citizens outside the stage were once again gripped. As Zhu Zuo's attack fell, Li Bai's body was instantly paralyzed, and could only be trapped in the barrier, wailing in pain. Seeing this, the 6 major nations gathered together, especially the higher-ups of the Tianzu nation, began to directly plot the division of Chinese land. As he waved his left hand through the void, a map of China instantly unfolded. As the victorious nation, the Sakura nation needed to take half of China's land and population, and our Tianzu nation's demand is that after China's defeat, we can obtain 1/3 of China's land and population. Upon hearing this, the higher-ups of the Korean nation beside them immediately clenched their fists. What we can share is not even half of yours. Why should your Tianzu nation be able to obtain the vast majority of the remaining land? This is unfair. Seeing this, the higher-ups of the Tianzu nation slowly moved their steps, walking towards him. After arriving in front of him, that high monk directly gave him a hard slap across the face. After receiving this blow, the nation of Styx was immediately frightened and protected their heads. However, the high monk's eyes were still filled with disdain. You ask why? Is it because after the battle ends, you want the glory of the corpse goddess to fill soul? Upon hearing this, the nation of sticks no longer had the arrogance it just displayed, and could only timidly agree to the high monk's proposal. Meanwhile, on the arena, the battle between the Sword Immortal and Takumi Yamada was still ongoing, and facing the Sword Immortal, who had already revealed his true strength, Takumi Yamada, who had just been showing off his skills, was also being forced to retreat repeatedly. Even the Sword Immortal's offensive was becoming increasingly fierce. Unexpectedly, after achieving a state of unity of mind and spirit, the Sword Immortal's sword became so sharp. Now, the Sword Immortal's state has reached its peak. Yamada had been observing, to see if he could find a flaw in his mind, and then counterattack. Thinking of this, Yamada immediately stopped his movements. You can't maintain this explosive power for long. Once it burns out, you will be nothing but a lamb to the slaughter. I will give you one last chance. Join the Sakura, and you will have power and wealth equal to mine. We Sakura will treat you as a national hero. Spare no effort to restore your essence. Upon hearing this, the Sword Immortal also murmured, treating the land as equals? There is no falsehood in that. But before Takumi Yamada's voice could finish, the Sword Immortal's figure charged towards him again. Seeing this, Yamada's heart raced, and he quickly raised his sword to defend. This strike was even more ferocious than the previous attacks. The sword energy emitted forced Yamada to retreat repeatedly. After delivering this sword strike, the Sword Immortal looked at him with even more killing intent. But I see fear in your eyes. However, at this moment, Yamada was forcing himself to appear calm. Then look over there, the outcome is about to be revealed. Following Yamada's gaze, the Sword Immortal was now suffering extremely harsh torment. But Li Bai did not give up struggling. Thinking of the face of the Susa he despised in front of him, he gripped the sword in his hand even tighter. Seeing this, Tokugawa beside him also felt a bit more anger in his heart. The gods of Huaxia are truly resilient, able to endure under the punishment of the strongest martial god in the high heavens for so long. But his body felt like it was pierced by 10,000 arrows. Now, he was just waiting for execution. At the same time, Yamada on stage spoke again to interfere, trying to make the Sword Immortal give up resistance. However, the response he received was still an incredibly firm answer from the god. Not evil. Why must the fate of millions of living beings on the ground be in your hands? If the god is not greedy, why can't it tolerate a little disrespect? What faint light does divine protection have? The tragic deaths of Huaxia soldiers and the scattered Huaxia rascals. They are all as vivid as yesterday's scenes. We are all free beings, who can be high and mighty. Upon hearing this, Changsheng in the audience also felt extremely anxious, so he couldn't care about so much anymore. He directly shouted for the Sword Immortal. In life, one should enjoy to the fullest. Do not let the golden cup face the moon empty. As this sentence fell, everyone on the Huaxia side immediately shouted in unison. And after this sentence fell, Li Bai's heart also suddenly froze. Then the wine jug on him slowly rose into the air. This line of poetry seemed to have been written to his heart, integrating with him. At the same time, outside the barrier here, Zuo was also staring intently at the person in front of him. Just now, I, who was being tortured to death. Now, barrier appeared beside him again. Seeing this, Sakura was also full of disbelief. You must know, no one has ever escaped Susa's punishment for millions of years, except for the childhood of climbing and struggling. I have never drawn this sword. In that boundless darkness, the small belief of humanity saved that young god. I should protect the world. Come and witness my skills. After saying this, his long sword struck the barrier. And this sword from Susanoo is not as simple as it seems. Far back in ancient times, Zuo defeated the Yamato no Orochi with just 10 punches of his sword. Yamato The way of the sword and memories were born in his hands. With just one sword, he has slain countless evil gods. As Zhu Zuo unleashed his strongest strike, Li Bai also felt immense pressure. He is no match for Zhu Zuo now. After barely taking the attack, both sides fell into a stalemate again. The scene instantly made many citizens of Sakura country burst into laughter. Indeed, the gods of Huaxia are at their last gasp. Looking at Li Bai, who fell to the ground again, Susanoo was also filled with disdain. You must know that Li Bai's sword in front of him is almost like playing with a child. On the other side, Yamada Takumi was also calmly watching Liu King in the distance. Your strongest killing move. I still cannot break through my shell. I possess armor forged from thunder, the physique of a martial god. And your strength, enhanced by consuming your essence, can no longer be sustained for long. Listening to the words in his ears, the sword immortal adjusted his stance again. Then a surge of righteous energy erupted once more. If one sword is not enough, then let's have another sword. If 1,000 swords won't do, then let's have 1,000 more swords. Though the road ahead is difficult, I will go forth. After saying this, Liu King's figure charged towards Yamada Takumi again. The momentum of this strike was no less than before, and on the side, Zhu Zuo was once again locked in a fierce battle with Li Bai. Seeing that he was at a disadvantage, Li Bai opened the wine jug in his hand again. And just like that, in front of Zhu Zuo, drink heartily. This made Zhu Zuo's heart feel a bit more anger. He then raised his sword again and struck at Li Bai. However, this strike unexpectedly missed completely. At the moment he sensed Li Bai's aura, Zhu Zuo's heart was also filled with disbelief. Before him, Li Bai had his sword intent condensed into white lotuses. Under this dense sword intent, Zhu Zuo's figure was instantly enveloped. At the same time, Li Bai also changed his expression. This sword has a beautiful name, called the Green Lotus Sword Song. Seeing this, Zhu Zuo also activated his ability again. As those sword intents met Zhu Zuo, were all cut off, but the barrier was struck with countless cracks from this blow. Looking at the scene before them, many children of China clenched their fists nervously. Just when they thought there was a turning point, they didn't expect it to collapse at the first touch. The dean gritted his teeth even harder. The current move is already the sword, the strongest strike recorded by the immortals. It will be difficult to counter the follow-up. Hearing this, Changsheng's heart also tightened. After all, in his memory, the sword immortal's strength was far from just this. Following Changsheng's gaze, on the stage, Zhu Zuo, after receiving Li Bai's Green Lotus Sword Song, began to twist and turn again. Now, Zhu Zuo's aura showed no signs of weakening. Every strike just now exuded terrifying pressure. But facing Zhu Zuo's attacks for the world, Li Bai sneered dismissively. In his eyes, every attack from Zhu Zuo was filled with brutal slaughter. Hearing Li Bai's words, Zhu Zuo was instantly furious. How dare an insect criticize his sword path? This is absolutely unacceptable. As Zhu Zuo launched another strike, the long sword in Li Bai's hand instantly shattered. Seeing this, the people of China felt their hearts turn to ashes. They didn't expect that this outcome could not be changed, after all. After enduring Zhu Zuo's continuous attacks, Li Bai's aura also began to gradually weaken. He never expected that he wouldn't fall in the romance of Chang'an, but today he would die at the hands of a god. Looking at this scene, Changsheng slowly turned his body. After looking at the students beside him, his tone also seemed particularly heavy. Everyone open your books. There are some anonymous poems. I hope everyone can recite them with me. To give to the sword immortal. No, that's not right. It's the poet immortal Li Bai. After saying this, Changsheng immediately took out a textbook. While calling everyone and loudly reciting those anonymous poems, one line after another of poetry, gradually gathered into one breath after another, merging into Li Bai's body. These poems that had never been heard before seemed to flow in his veins, traveling through 1,000 years, giving Li Bai new strength once again. Seeing this, Zhu Zuo was instantly dumbfounded. He never expected that a mere mortal could be so resilient. Before he could react, Li Bai, relying on the aura of the great path given by Changsheng, swung his sword at Zhu Zuo again. The power of this strike had completely surpassed Zhu Zuo's swordsmanship. This made Zhu Zuo feel an endless humiliation inside. And at that moment, Zhu Zuo's aura surged again. That violent and murderous aura instantly enveloped the entire arena. At the moment when Zhu Zuo's aura completely erupted, Zhu Zuo's body was suddenly surrounded by an extremely evil black mist. Seeing this, the audience on the cherry blossom side instantly felt a tightness in their chests. Clearly, he was a martial god who mastered the thunder and myriad phenomena. Yet beneath his body hid a decayed and dark aura. Instinctively, they believed that the gods of Huaxia were secretly doing something unspeakable. But at this moment, Changsheng was extremely clear in his heart. Susanu's nature is brutality and slaughter. Just from Yamada Takumi's attitude of treating human life as grass, he could sense how many citizens of Sakura Yamada Takumi had killed in secret. And how many innocent lives. After all, the character of a divine favored one, in subtle ways, is influenced by their fated artifact. Humanity is divinity. Following Changsheng's gaze, the man Zhu Zuo, at this moment, had long exposed his true nature. Now, Zhu Zuo looked at Li Bai's expression. The previous holiness and arrogance were long gone. Only the desire for slaughter remained. As Zhu Zuo spoke softly again, a decayed killing intent instantly covered the righteous aura he had emitted before. Seeing this, Changsheng also clenched his fists in worry. One must know that the Zhu Zuo who has fallen into darkness, his abilities are not only unknown, but also even more difficult to grasp, hard to deal with. Hearing the murmurs from Changsheng's mouth, the city lord beside him also felt a tightness in his heart. On the arena now, Li Bai could only keep retreating as he encountered these black mists. As long as he was shrouded in the black mist, everything in sight was decayed. It was simply unavoidable. In just a moment, as Li Bai just exited the range of the black mist, he was once again entangled by the black mist. As the black mist howled upwards, this time Li Bai was also enveloped by the black mist. Seeing this scene, the dean stumbled on his feet. His body could not help but fall. But Li Bai, endowed with divinity by Changsheng, at this moment, still had an incredibly strong barrier. Yet even if the barrier blocked those mists, Li Bai was still eroded by the mist. In just a breath's time, he transformed into an old man with white hair. Seeing this scene, the citizens of Huaxia were also extremely worried. Did not expect this terrifying power. Actually mastered the power of time. Similarly, Liu Yanren beside him also clenched her fists. The Zhu Zuo who fell into darkness, his strength still exceeded his imagination. Yet Changsheng did not give up on this. It is well known that Li Bai's sword intent is unparalleled. But in the splendid and magnificent history of Huaxia, Li Bai, besides the title of Sword Immortal, he also has the most resounding title. That is the Immortal Poet. Meanwhile, on the arena, just after Li Bai was eroded by darkness, Zhu Zuo also raised the dual blades in his hands again. Accompanied by the swing of this strike, Li Bai's figure was like a kite with a broken string. Seeing this, Zhu Zuo immediately raised his crimson eyes. When I catch you, I will crush every inch of your bones. Let your divine position be trampled by the cherry blossom people. To comfort my soul, looking at the terrifying aura of Zhu Zuo, Li Bai also felt a sense of powerlessness in his heart. Seeing Li Bai fall to the ground again, Changsheng also unconsciously gritted his teeth. But some verses have already been lost in the river of history. Looking at the Huaxia citizens behind and beside him, this time, Changsheng decided to bear it alone. He then shouted one poem after another. At this moment, Changsheng firmly believed that Huaxia was already civilized. He swore. Watching Changsheng once again bestow new divinity upon the sword immortal, the students beside him were all worried. After all, bestowing new divinity requires sacrificing one's lifespan as the price. As Changsheng spoke, a mouthful of old blood also spurted from his mouth. Seeing this, the dean hurriedly urged him to stop his actions. But time waits for no one. After a brief pause, Changsheng recited again those poems forgotten by the river of history. As these verses were recited, Li Bai's figure slowly stood up once more. In the face of time, what do life's difficulties and twists count for? And as Li Bai stood up again, Changsheng also recited the most crucial line. Heaven born, my talents must be useful. 1,000 gold spent will return again. As this line was spoken, Li Bai's aura began to gradually recover. Feeling the aura brought by Changsheng, Li Bai felt incredibly refreshed inside. As he stepped out again, Li Bai's figure instantly disappeared from the spot. Each time he appeared, his figure became faster, and the position he stepped out from actually faintly condensed into a white lotus. Just a short distance from Zuzuo, Li Bai's sword was drawn again. This strike was filled with endless breath of revival. All things grow. Seeing this, Zuzuo was also flustered. He never expected that a deity could also master the power of time. Meanwhile, the battle between Yamada and Liu King was also about to come to an end. Liu King is now burning the rice. I'm afraid even a weak new divine scroll wielder could easily defeat him. But although Liu King's energy is already so weak, Yamada did not intend to stay behind. Now, they just need to wait for Zuzuo to kill Li Bai. Then the outcome of this battle will soon be revealed. As Liu King's aura gradually withers, the current Li Bai is already in a sorry state. But Zuzuo has to admit, Li Bai is the most resilient opponent he has ever encountered. Yet even with his sins and wrongdoings, Zuzuo still feels no guilt in his heart. After all, that was his past. And he, Zuzuo, was born to illuminate this moment. In this world, as it is said, the deity loves the world. Seeing this, the citizens of Sakura, who had just held doubts, were all deeply impressed by it. The lightning of this moment is all out to protect the people. So why question him? Even over here in Huaxia, many citizens were moved by this scene. Watching the national strength greatly increase, the face of Emperor Tokugawa not far away was also extremely grim. National strength increases. This can provide more faith power for the deity. On the arena, the strike just delivered by Li Bai was once again decayed by Susanu's attack. The broken long sword in his hand also gained countless cracks again. But Susanu's movements did not stop there. At the moment the breath was released, he immediately swung his dual swords again. This time, even Li Bai's protective barrier shattered. Li Bai never expected that under Zuo's brutality, so much was hidden. His divine power intensity had increased several times compared to before. As Li Bai collapsed to the ground, Zuo's sword momentum was about to fall again. That terrifying strike, filled with endless wails. Seeing this, Changsheng not far away also clenched his fist unwillingly. In a short time, he had already bestowed too much divinity. Now the source has begun to show deficiencies. His body had long been severely injured, but Changsheng still firmly believed that the once renowned poet immortal, his strength would definitely not stop here. But for Changsheng, now, whether he can still bestow true divinity to Li Bai, if he does not strike again, I'm afraid Li Bai's fate will still be death and disappearance. As Li Bai withstood Zhu Zuo's strike, the current Li Bai had already become a strong Bao at its end, only able to barely resist the encroachment of the mist and Zhu Zuo's relentless attacks. Saw this scene. Many faces on the Huaxia side showed a hint of despair. Could it be that in the end, this predetermined outcome cannot be broken? Even Changsheng's heart was filled with unwillingness. Now, he must constantly recall in his mind to awaken Li Bai's previous verses. For the sake of victory, Changsheng must spare no effort. The true prior should fully unleash all his strength. The current Li Bai was also filled with despair. It seems that he ultimately cannot do it. Thinking of this, Li Bai, with the heart set on death, reached out to his old comrade, planning to fight to the death. And on the other side at the same time, in Changsheng's mind, one poem after another kept emerging. After pondering for a long time, he finally found one that could awaken the poet immortal's verses again. That is Song of the River. Although this poem is relatively lesser known compared to others, even in the previous life, where culture had not yet fractured, it was still rarely known. At this moment, because Li Bai felt the reality of his attempt to break love, and the main theme, he would definitely be able to awaken Li Bai's divinity as a poet immortal. Thinking this, Changsheng once again shouted those verses. The stars fall, and Pen shakes the 5 mountains. The city laughs proudly over Lin Kangzu. Upon hearing this line of poetry, Li Bai instantly trembled all over. Past memories also began to continuously impact his memory. Li Bai, will write poems that overshadow all poets of past and present. This young man, though not well known, actually has such poetic talent. Truly a great talent. The younger generation is formidable. The younger generation is formidable indeed. As Li Bai's memory fragments gradually restored, Changsheng's words did not cease. The verses of Bring in the Wine followed closely. After speaking, Changsheng could only place all his hopes on Li Bai. Accompanied by the intertwining of the long sword and the brush's shadow, Li Bai's true divinity has finally awakened. And this time, the sword he is about to wield is the youthful spirit of the poet immortal. His body did not move, yet a sword aura instantly pierced through Zhu Zuo's chest. The terror of this strike not only instantly shattered Zhu Zuo's aura, but even the power within him was emptied. Looking at the fallen Zuo, who could not rise again, Li Bai slowly stepped forward to him. You no longer need to bear this heavy shell. To walk on, be more at ease. After saying this, Susanu's form began to slowly dissipate in the arena. And what met Li Bai's gaze once again was his former self. This sword not only cut through his own spiritedness, but also those years. Yet seeing Zhu Zuo's form has already vanished. Yamamoto Takami's heart was still filled with unwillingness. Even if the deity has fallen, so what? After saying this, he raised his sword again to slash at Liu King, wanting to fight to the death for victory. But he ultimately underestimated Liu King's strength. Although only one arm remained, in comparison to the power burning to fruition, Yamamoto Takumi had just made a move when Liu King pierced through his body with a sword. Now, Yamamoto also fell alongside Susanoo in the arena. Seeing this, the people from Sakura country all held their heads in despair. How is this possible? Clearly, they had already given their all. The weak Huaxia, with its cultural gap, actually turned the tables. Meanwhile, the Huaxia audience, regarding this scene, many people's hearts were filled with joy, did not expect that under the predetermined outcome. They truly, miraculously made a comeback from 2-3, achieving the final reversal. Many people at this time extended their hands to celebrate for Changsheng. Huaxia can have today. All thanks to Lu Changsheng. But just as everyone was celebrating the victory, the movements of Liu King on the arena once again drew the attention of many people. It can be seen that on the current arena, Liu King, who has lost an arm, and the elderly Li Bai are slowly undergoing an incredible transformation, and the new Dao fruit is also gradually taking shape on Liu King. As Li Bai once again opens his arms, a vast energy instantly filled the entire arena. When Li Bai opens his eyes again, Liu King has astonishingly become an S's level divine role, along with his deity has also transformed into SSS level, nirvana, rebirth, breaking and then standing. This battle has significantly enhanced Liu King's strength once again. Seeing this outside the arena, the dean also showed great excitement. I didn't expect that Liu King, who lost the Dao fruit, would actually, with Changsheng's help, not only reforge the Dao fruit, but also elevate both his divine level and his own level. Upon hearing this, the city lord also turned to look at the dean, inquiring about Liu King's new Dao fruit. The dean also laughed heartily with relief. You say Liu King's new Dao fruit is a perfect blend of poetry and swordsmanship. Upon hearing this, the city lord also slowly looked towards Changsheng. I really didn't expect that Changsheng could bring us so many surprises. Meanwhile, on the arena, after Li Bai's figure solidified again, a line of poetry resonated throughout the arena. In the east of the Golden Market, the youth of Wuling, on a silver saddle, a white horse rides through the spring breeze. As this line of poetry came to an end, Liu King's entire body instantly radiated brilliance, and his empty arm also restored once again. Looking at his arm that he had lost and regained, Liu King's heart was also filled with joy. After calming himself down, he turned his gaze to the arena not far away. Then, towards Changsheng's position, he deeply bowed. I am truly grateful, my young friend. Seeing this, Changsheng was also filled with joy. He just waved his hand at Liu King. After a brief rest, on this side of the arena, Aphrodite appeared again. In this first round of the mythological arena preliminaries, Huaxia vs. Sakura Country 3-2. Huaxia wins. Congratulations to Huaxia for making a comeback from a desperate situation and achieving the final victory. Next, welcome the victorious country Huaxia to settle. P. Lu Changsheng, come up to receive your spoils. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng was also taken aback. You mean me? But before he could react, people around him gathered around him to have him go on stage to receive the reward. After all, there is currently no one more qualified than Changsheng. After arriving at the arena, looking at the two rewards presented by Aphrodite, Changsheng fell into deep thought. Considering that Huaxia does not lack population or talent, the land area would bring more resources. Changsheng then chose the second option as a reward for Huaxia's victory this time. After Changsheng's words fell, Aphrodite also smiled gracefully in response. A red aura suddenly appeared above Changsheng's head. With the emergence of that red aura, a red azure dragon also took shape. Not long after, that azure dragon had grown to the size of half a planet. It opened its huge mouth and breathed out. The Sakura country on the map was instantly torn away, half of its territory. At the same time, many citizens in Sakura were filled with despair. Looking at the map, the territory was instantly reduced by half. Emperor Tokugawa was filled with anger. In a fit of rage, he could only taste sweetness in his mouth, and then completely fainted on the ground. And after defeating Sakura, Huaxia's current world ranking jumped from 32nd to 9th place, officially occupying a spot in the top 10. As he declared the end, the preliminary round of the mythical arena finally concluded. At the moment the match ended, many countries that originally coveted Huaxia's territory turned their guns towards Sakura, launching an attack in the mythical arena. Even the country of India, which had a partnership with Sakura, immediately opened, followed by Greece and the beautiful country Seeing this, the Lord of Huaxia was also taken aback. How did 4 countries appear on the arena to challenge Sakura? Information from Sakura. Weren't they in a cooperative relationship before? However, at this moment, Changsheng was extremely clear in his heart. This is just a case of the hunted bird hiding the bough. When the rabbit dies, the dog is cooked. At the same time, Changsheng here was also undergoing incredible changes. Before Changsheng now, there was indeed a system pop up. Seeing that the compatibility with his destined deity had surged by 10%, Changsheng was momentarily lost in thought. However, although summoning different deities can increase compatibility, the most important thing now is still to prioritize enhancing the national fortune. At the moment when Huaxia took over the territory of Sakura, Changsheng also felt the enhancement of compatibility with his destined deity within his body. Perhaps in the near future, Pangu will truly reappear in this world. And now, there is still the divinity obtained from summoning and bestowing deities, the divinity attributes acquired from it. It seems that from now on, Yingzheng will spare no effort for the people of Huaxia. Changsheng will also be able to summon it again. Thinking of this, his gaze gradually became resolute. Rest assured, Brother Zheng. After simply sorting through these things, Changsheng turned his attention to the innate technique on the panel. This innate technique was just activated after his compatibility with the destined deity reached 10%, and just now emerged. And this technique is extremely against the heavens. The ancient great master has an indestructible body. His soul is immortal. This 9 transformations profound art can even eliminate all soul damage. After the technique is activated, the damage caused to him during the recent battle with the sword immortal has also fully recovered. Thinking of this from now on, he can bestow divinity to more unknown deities. His heart couldn't help but become even more excited. After all, with the support of the life technique, Changsheng no longer has to worry about bestowing divinity, causing soul damage. Meanwhile, on the other side, in the abyss of the west, the Lord of the Abyss, the Flame Demon, is firmly bound in mid-air by iron chains, and in front of him stands the deity of cherry blossoms, Amaterasu. Now, Amaterasu is just quietly watching the Flame Demon. There is no emotion in his eyes. After a long time, he turned his face to the side. Are you saying just this one person has reversed the disadvantage of the Huaxia nation on the mythological arena, and also caused my useless brother to be completely annihilated? Hearing this, the man quickly buried his head in the ground. Yes, you are right. Upon hearing this person's affirmation, Amaterasu's lips curled into a smile that ordinary people would not notice. Truly interesting. Seeing this, the man raised his head again. I earnestly request the great Amaterasu to make a decision regarding the current situation. After all, not only are the allied nations turning against us, but the emperor is also completely bedridden due to the current defeat. At this moment, Amaterasu had an extremely cold gaze. A group of selfish and ungrateful people. But I still have more important things to do. Then I will choose to forfeit in the next round, and wait for me to settle the score. After saying this, he once again turned his gaze to the Flame Demon before him. You finally couldn't hold back, my kin. Or perhaps my other self. Upon hearing this, the Flame Demon's eyes also became extremely strange. But facing Amaterasu, he still remained silent. Watching this scene, Amaterasu let out a series of cold laughs. Have you never coveted me? Everything is merely fate. Looking at the scene before him, the person beside him couldn't stop trembling. And as Amaterasu's holy aura revealed itself, he was surrounded by flashes of lightning. But not long after, that aura was replaced by a chilling presence. Feeling this aura, the person's forehead was drenched in layer upon layer of cold sweat. Why is Amaterasu as holy as the sun in the sky, yet also as eerie as jade? Soon, The news of the cherry blossoms forfeit reached the arena. Aphrodite also announced this time the victor's claim. This time, the price paid by the cherry blossoms was the cession of a city. Kyoto City, cherry blossom nation, currently has forfeited twice in the mythological arena, with one forfeit remaining. The ceded city will be accepted by the last victorious nation. As he finished speaking, many citizens within Kyoto Prefecture felt an endless despair. At the same time, in the Huaxia audience section, after hearing Aphrodite's announcement, many citizens felt a surge of joy in their hearts. No one expected that after this battle ended, there would be unexpected gains. Watching this scene, the dean, not far away, also sighed deeply. This is the price of failure. The people branded with the slave mark will forever lose their divinity and then become the expendables of foreign lives, ultimately dying far from home. Upon hearing this, Changsheng also looked towards the dean. Have we ever forfeited? Because of the disparity in strength, we have forfeited 3 times and divided 3 cities. From now on, the Huaxia nation has no opportunity to forfeit. So this time, there is no way to avoid it. Upon hearing this, Changsheng's heart also felt a wave of loneliness. I also wonder how those compatriots scattered outside are doing now. Meanwhile, in another part of the Tianzu nation, a tall man was chatting with a child regarding this time's cherry blossom forfeit. The tall man's words seemed to subtly lean towards the child, even asking him about the next round's opponent nation. And after the child stood still for a long time, he finally spoke slowly. Rome and Greece have long occupied the top 2 positions, and the other allied nations are also ambitious. If we rashly choose a small country, it is unlikely to significantly improve national strength in a short time. Then we can only choose Huaxia. Upon hearing the saint's words, the tall man appeared quite wary. After all, although the cherry blossoms suffered a great defeat this time, similarly, Huaxia has also produced a genius like Lu Changsheng. Not only that, Huaxia's current ranking has long stepped into the 9th position in the world. Although everyone looks down on Huaxia, the deities of Huaxia are not weaker than any country in the world. He has also never heard of the secret letter mentioned by Changsheng. After saying this, he raised his arm again. So why should we choose to gnaw on such a tough bone? Upon hearing this, the saint of Tianzu couldn't help but smirk. No matter how strong the origin of Huaxia's deities is, their divinity was drowned in a battle from 10,000 years ago. This is also the reason for the weakness of Huaxia's deities, and not just the well-known fracture of Huaxia's civilization. Limited by insufficient divinity, Huaxia's deities can only exert the strength of a divine general at most, while at the divine king level, they are almost invincible in Huaxia. Upon hearing this, the big man beside him also changed his expression. His face was filled with surprise. After all, their country of Tianzu also has several divine kings. Now, they only need to defeat Huaxia, and he can recklessly devour and occupy Huaxia. He wants to make those Huaxia deities with depleted divinity convert to Buddhism and enslave them for their country of Tianzu. Seeing this, the big man beside him couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. It is said that the saint has no desires or demands, but his expression is now filled with aggression and a desire to possess. On the other side of the arena, after Sakura faced Tianzu's forfeit, Aphrodite also began to replan the next match. The contestants watched this scene, and the audience from Huaxia also prayed fervently. After all, Tianzu is one of the 3 great ancient civilizations with strong power. Currently, Huaxia is not their opponent, but the world is unpredictable. Not long after the scene calmed down, Aphrodite announced the country for this match. Hearing Huaxia's name being called out, the crowd that just prayed clenched their fists in unwillingness. However, Aphrodite did not pay any attention. The noisy crowd at the moment is just silently announcing the first of the preliminaries, end of the round, and officially announced the time for the next match. After the match concluded, everyone began to leave the venue, but Changsheng stood in place for a long time, deep in thought about something. Not long after, Changsheng was taken by Liu Qing to the Huaxia Military Center. However, at this moment, Changsheng was still thinking about those scattered citizens. Seeing the frustration in his heart, Changsheng looked up at Liu Qing. "General, can you tell me which 3 cities were ceded by Huaxia?" Upon hearing this, Liu Qing was clearly taken aback. He did not expect Changsheng to ask about this matter. But after a moment of hesitation, he named the 3 cities, which are Yizhou, Gongdao, and Jingao. And Yizhou was the first territory to be ceded. It has been over 50 years since then. Listening to this, Changsheng was very puzzled. Haven't we tried to reclaim lost territory? With Huaxia's previous strength, we should be able to avoid being eroded by foreign enemies. After exhausting all efforts, there was simply no strength left to reclaim lost territory. Upon hearing this, Changsheng's heart tightened again. Then he clenched his fists. Since the predecessors had no strength left, then Huaxia must reclaim lost territory, starting from today. After a brief moment of contemplation, he asked Liu Qing for information on all the deities of Huaxia. Hearing this, Liu Qing was clearly taken aback. Could it be that you want to rely on these commanding deities to reclaim lost territory? Do you know? This will be very difficult. At least in Huaxia, no one has ever accomplished it. But at this moment, Changsheng was extremely determined. Seeing Changsheng's attitude, Liu Qing no longer hesitated. After all, everyone is well aware of Changsheng's strength. Not long after, a list of deities arrived in Changsheng's hands. Looking at the deities on the list, Changsheng was momentarily drenched in cold sweat. The renowned Shang Yu from the previous life turned out to be merely a B-level deity. Seeing Changsheng in a daze, Liu Qing quickly began to talk about the Huaxia human race, the deity Luluo. However, Changsheng directly placed Shang Yu and Bai Qi in front of Liu Qing. Seeing this, Liu Qing also propped up his chin. You must know that Bai Qi and Naja stand out among the gods. But a B-level deity like Shang Yu is really just sending someone to their death, isn't it?